What is good, YouTube? It's Joey, and today we're coming with our final predictions of the 2021-2022 NFL season with the NFC East. Like and subscribe, road to 400. Just keep in mind, this is my opinion. Things could change when the season comes. We'll give you week-by-week predictions, but after this video is coming by, we are going to predict the early Super Bowl 56 winner. The NFL season does start in September, so next month is the preseason, and after that in September is when the season gets underway. So the season is coming up, but with the NFC East, it was one of the worst divisions last year as the football team won it at 7-9, as many people like to call it, NFC Least. But we're starting off with the Washington football team, who I am predicting to go 12-5. So the Washington football team has an elite defense. Might be the best defense in football for next season. They have an absolutely extraordinary defense with many players that can get after the quarterback, like Chase Young, who is coming into his second season. They have Montez Sweat. They have Matt Ioannidis and Jonathan Allen at the interior defensive line positions, who are really good. They have on the edge Chase Young. They have Deron Payne also on the defensive line. They have Montez Sweat. So they have a lot of guys up front that can get after the quarterback and stop the run, which is really good for them. They have also the rookie Jamin Davis, who can come up and play big. They have William Jackson and Kendall Fuller in the secondary, and they have Kamen Curl, who's an up-and-coming safety. So they're really good in the front seven, and their secondary is improving. They were one of the best defenses last year, and they should only improve adding to their defense. So this football team can get after the quarterback. They can stop the run, slow it down, and they should be good against the pass. Any offense that's going to face them this year should be really worried. The football team's most challenging thing for them is on the offensive side of the ball, with their offensive line outside of Brandon Scherf isn't really all that great. Brandon Scherf's one of the best guards. They franchise tagged him, and then he's really good as a run blocker and setting it up front. But outside of that, they don't really have anyone that's proven to be good. So Ryan Fitzpatrick has played in Miami. He's played in a bunch of teams, but his most recent team was the Miami Dolphins, and he was dealing with the bad offensive line, and he's in a better situation now with the football team. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't been a Pro Bowl, first-team All-Pro quarterback by any means, but he's put up solid numbers throughout his career, and he's proven to have good arm strength and mobility, throwing outside the pocket, making big plays, and really creating opportunities for his team to be able to win, showing that he's fearless and he's experienced and should improve this football team. Although he's not a top 10 quarterback, he's still able to put up some big numbers and lead this team to victory. And his job should be easier with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel on the perimeter to help him out, along with Logan Thomas, who proved to be a good red zone threat and a guy who can move the chains, plus Antonio Gibson, who was a good running back for the Washington football team last year. The football team's offense, while not nearly as good as the defense, should be able to win this football team a lot of games. Now, 12-5 is higher than a lot of people project them, but I project the NFC to have a lot of top-heavy teams, like the Buccaneers going 15-2, getting the 1 seed, the Rams going 14-3 with their Matthew Stafford at quarterback now, and their elite defense with their weapons. And then you have the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, still have one of the best rosters in the football team, with one of the best defenses and a pretty solid offense. So the NFC has a lot of top-heavy teams. The football team could perform better than this, or they could perform much worse. but it should be no surprise that they are the favorites and the team that should win the NFC East next year. So their projected most toughest matchups in my eyes for the Washington football team are the Buffalo Bills. Are a pretty tough matchup for the football team. It's because of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and all of those guys. The football team's defense could make it really tough on the Bills, but the football team's offense is going to have some problems. Although Buffalo doesn't have the best pass rush, you never know if Rousseau is a boom or bust, but Jerry Hughes is pretty solid. You have Ed Oliver up front. The secondary of the Bills is hit or miss, but they're pretty underrated. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, and Micah Hyde can all be really good in the secondary to cause them some problems. So can the football team keep up with the Bills? Offense is better than defense nowadays, so I have the Bills winning that one. I have the Chargers beating the football team in week 1. The Chargers improved their O-line, although not elite. I think Herbert can still make enough plays, and the Chargers can escape there with the win, although the football team could win that one. I have the Chiefs beating the football team with the Chiefs' improved offensive line, adding Joe Thuney, adding Orlando Brown, adding all those guys to patch it up. Who's really going to help Mahomes have enough time. He's going to be having a tough time, but the Chiefs on the other side of the ball with the defense have Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, who's up and coming, so they still have a pretty solid defense, and I believe the Chiefs are by far the better team. And then I have them splitting with the Cowboys and the Giants within the division, because these are divisional games, and the Cowboys have a really good offense, just not a good defense at all. But I'm projecting Dak Prescott to have a really good game in one of these and just absolutely carry the Cowboys to win with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and their receiving core in Dallas, along with Michael Gallup and Tony Pollard's coming along, underrated. So I believe they will split. I believe the football team will get one matchup because of their strong defense, and their offense can score quite a bit on the Cowboys defense. And then I have the Giants and football team splitting with the Giants' elite defense, with guys like Leonard Williams, who are really good up front. They have James Bradbury in the secondary. A lot of good guys that can just really make life tougher on that football team offense. And then you have the football team's defense, though, that's going to wreak havoc on Daniel Jones. So that's an interesting matchup. But you get Galladay, you have Saquon, you have Kadarius Toney. So the Giants' O-line is going to struggle a lot in that matchup, but they have a lot of great players, so that's a split. Although I have the football team picking up quite a bit of upsets because of this defense. I have them upsetting the Packers in week 7. We still don't know if Aaron Rodgers will be the Packers starter or not. Stick around for videos and news about Aaron Rodgers on the channel. I have them upsetting the Packers with that defense, that pass rush overwhelming the Packers O-line that has a lot of young rookies it's depending on. And losing guys like Corey Linsley up front may hurt them. The football team's strong pass rush in their secondary, slowing down these Packers receivers, will make life tough on Rodgers and or Jordan Love. And then on the opposite side of the ball, the Ryan Fitzpatrick and that offense can get just enough going, where I have the football team pulling up that upset. I also have the football team upsetting the Buccaneers in week 10, as in a really shocking loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of that pass rush the football team has. If you can get after Tom Brady and blanket his wide receivers, there's really not, Tom Brady's going to struggle. Any quarterback ever is going to struggle, but especially since Tom Brady's not mobile, he's going to have a rough time. Although his offensive line is elite and among the best, and in that playoff game, his offensive line kept him clean. Now with William Jackson, Kendall Fuller, guys like that in the secondary, it's really going to help out the pass rush, and I'm projecting the pass rush to get after Tom Brady and for the front seven to slow down his run game. So that's going to be problematic for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I also have Ryan Fitzpatrick just scoring enough points with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel to escape out of there with the win. For the Washington football team, it's a really shocking one, but if your secondary is able to cover and your pass rush is really good, the football team is really deep defensively and one of the few defenses that can slow down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. So the football team, I also have them upsetting the Seahawks, although in my eyes it's not really much of an upset because of the Seahawks' lackluster offensive line and the football team's deep, really good pass rush. It's going to get after Russell Wilson, and it's not going to make things easy on him. And the football team's stout run defense, which I'm projecting them to have because of their strong front seven, can take you far, and the defensive side of things will really help the football team win that game. So the football team, I have them sweeping the Eagles within the division because the Eagles don't really have that much depth among wide receiver. They have rookie Devontae Smith, but Jalen Hurts, how is he going to perform in this new system with Nick Sirianni? Not really a friendly system to mobile quarterbacks, and it's a first-year head coach quarterback duo there in Philly, and their offensive line is aging and injury prone, so that is definitely concerning for the Eagles. And they aren't good in the secondary. Darius Slay regressed last year, and outside of him, they don't really have many reliable options in the secondary. Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, although great, they're aging, and their linebacker core could use help. So I believe the football team can win that. Now looking at floors and ceilings for the Washington football team, their actual record is 12-5, first in the division. Now let's give you their ceiling if I think everything goes their way. So I see the football team ceiling at 16-1. Very surprisingly, this is if everything goes their way. I believe the Washington football team can reach a ceiling of 16-1, only losing to the Chiefs. That is them beating the Chargers, the Bills, because their defense maybe and their offense scoring too much on those defenses, and then sweeping their whole entire division, and also taking care of, again, the Buccaneers, the Packers, and then, of course, the teams like the Seahawks and the Saints. Now, let's see if everything went against them. So let's see their floor, what their worst case scenario is. So I have the Washington football team's floor at a 6-11 record. This is if everything went against them, losing 3 straight games to the Chargers, which we already had them losing in an upset Justin Herbert type of game that they just scored too much for the football team's offense, and they figure out holes in the football team's defense. We have the Giants sweeping them in their worst case scenario with Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay figuring out how to score enough points with Kadarius Toney and Saquon Barkley, and their defense that can get after the quarterback, and their secondary, which will hold up in this matchup. And in week 3, you had them losing to the Bills with Josh Allen game, and their defense slowing down the football team's offense. The Chiefs winning like we had earlier with Mahomes and his improved O-line, and the Chiefs' talent on defense is able to rise to the occasion. But we also have the Packers in this scenario beating the football team in their worst case scenario. Jordan Love / Aaron Rodgers figures things out and uses Matt LaFleur, comes up with the game plan to dissect the football team's defense, and the Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary, Jair, Darnell Savage, Amos, the linebackers, they figure out how to get a win. Kenny Clark up front on that football team O-line. The Packers pass rush finds a way to overwhelm the O-line, and the secondary rises, and they're able to make the football team's job tough. This is in their worst case scenario. The Buccaneers also beat the football team in their worst case scenario. Tom Brady's O-line outmatches the football team's pass rush in this scenario, and Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin all get open. And the Buccaneers are able to find a way to score enough points with their pass rush. Shaq Barrett, JPP, making Ryan Fitzpatrick's life tough, and McLaurin and Samuel aren't to be found, and the football team can't run the ball. So the Buccaneers win in the football team's worst case scenario. The Panthers, with their young pass rush and their depth at receiver and running back, find a way to win in the worst case scenario for the floor and for the football team. Seahawks find a way to win. Russell Wilson evades the pass rush and finds DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and those guys have monster games, with Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams disrupting things for the football team's O-line. And the Seahawks are able to do just enough to get out of there with the win, similarly how they did last year. The Eagles are able to split with the football team in their worst case scenario. Jalen Hurts is able to use his legs, and they're able to get a game plan to beat the football team for the first time in their first meeting this year, which comes in week 15 late in the season. And then the Eagles defense, Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, and those guys are able to create disruption on the football team's O-line and get after Fitzpatrick, disrupt things, and get out of there with the win. I have the Cowboys still splitting with the football team in the football team's worst case scenario. And then I have the Giants sweeping, of course. So 6-11 is their floor, but I do not think they're going to go 6-11 whatsoever. 12-5 is going to be the football team's record that I am predicting. So that is how I think they're going to perform. So with that being said, they're fourth in the NFC in a very stacked, top-heavy NFC, similar to the AFC. And then you move on to the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, and I have their actual record being 7-10 with an absolutely amazing offense, but a terrible, atrocious defense that can be taken advantage of, and a suspect coaching staff. The Dallas Cowboys have Dak Prescott, who is coming off an injury, and he is also a big question mark, while Prescott is a great leader and can take his team from behind and always keep them in it. He had a really bad ankle injury last year, and will his mobility be the same? Will it affect his throwing motion? Is he going to be able to play? Those are all question marks, but I am assuming that Dak Prescott should be fine and keep the Cowboys competitive this year, although their defense and Mike McCarthy as a head coach, who is carried by Aaron Rodgers in his time with Green Bay, and an explosive offense, is not really the ideal head coach, and their defense has a lot of holes. Drafting Micah Parsons isn't going to really fix that much. Linebacker was the least of their concerns, although Parsons is really talented, able to get after the quarterback in blitz packages, and is promising in the pass coverage and run stopping departments. He still has a lot of his game to develop and get used to the NFL level. They have DeMarcus Lawrence, who got paid a huge contract but doesn't really show up, as he is their number one pass rushing guy. He is supposed to be, though, and he has disappointed, not producing the sack levels that are expected of him. Run defense was absolutely atrocious last year, and guys like Tristan Hill aren't in the interior of the defensive line, aren't going to do much for the Cowboys. And Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith must stay healthy in order for the Cowboys linebacker core to stay intact. They signed Keanu Neal, who may be a hybrid linebacker coming into the box, weak side safety. But now with the drafting of Parsons, they have many guys that can come into the box and play linebacker. Will they use Parsons as their blitzing linebacker? Will they keep him inside? How will they use him? They're probably going to move Micah Parsons around to make a lot of plays. But Keanu Neal was definitely a much-needed signing, although Keanu Neal is very injury-prone and struggles to stay on the field. And Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, their linebackers are their strengths on defense, while their secondary, Trayvon Diggs, is a young cornerback that still has a lot of room to grow, although he showed the potential to make big plays. The Cowboys need a leap from him this coming season. They have Jordan Lewis, who is probably their most reliable corner in the slot, who's been solid but can be taken advantage of. And they are really missing a lot in the secondary. So the Dallas Cowboys defense is really going to hold them back, along with their coaching staff. But they have a lot of young talent that they're depending on. And the Dallas Cowboys' toughest matchups, I have the Dallas Cowboys going 7-10, missing the playoffs. In the NFC East, they play the Buccaneers in week 1 of the NFL season, which is a very tough matchup for the Dallas Cowboys to win. It's opening game, America's team versus the defending Super Bowl champions. Dak Prescott's O-line should be healthy now, with Zach Martin, Leo Collins, and Tyron Smith locking down that left tackle. The Cowboys have always had an elite O-line, but getting Zeke and Tony Pollard going is not going to be easy for the Cowboys, and they're going to fall behind in this game because Buccaneers are going to have a defensive game plan for the Cowboys. Where the Cowboys have the advantage is the secondary versus the wide receivers, with Amari Cooper, who's been underrated, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. But then again, on the opposite side of the ball, Tom Brady is going to have a field day here with the Cowboys defense, with their lack of depth in the secondary. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Gronk, all their weapons are going to be getting open with ease, and Brady's going to have all day to throw. With the Cowboys' lackluster pass rush, Micah Parsons is going to have a really big impact rushing the passer and in pass coverage. When Trayvon Diggs taking huge leaps, DeMarcus Lawrence is going to have to show up, and the Cowboys are going to have to play at their best, but that is unlikely to happen with this Cowboys offense. The Buccaneers defense is very good, and they're the best, most well-rounded team in the NFL, which propose a huge coaching disadvantage for the Cowboys and a disadvantage on, especially with the Cowboys defense versus the Buccaneers offense. The Cowboys may be able to score quite a bit on the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers are going to put up 30+ points, most guaranteed, and Tom Brady is going to lead his team to victory. Ronald Jones and the running backs can also go off here, as the Cowboys' run defense hasn't been good. So the Cowboys face another shootout on their hands against the Chargers in week 2. which I also have them losing in a tough game with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and that offense with Austin Eckler able to score, put up a lot of points, and Justin Herbert is going to have an easier time there than Dak Prescott is. I am projecting this to be a shootout. It could go either way, but I have Justin Herbert's Chargers outdoing Dak Prescott's Cowboys in week 2. In week 3, I have the Eagles beating the Cowboys, with the Cowboys and the Eagles splitting on the year. Of course, they are 2 division rivals. I have the Eagles winning their first encounter matchup, with them pulling off the upset. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith have a great connection going. I project them to have a big game this time around. Jalen Reagor is probably going to have a good game. The Cowboys secondary is going to struggle against the Eagles wide receiver core. That might just be a little bit better than them, even though the Eagles wide receiver core isn't that much of a strength. But Dallas Goedert is a really good, underrated tight end. And Miles Sanders, I project to have a big game on the ground for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles' defensive line, which is their strength, they are able to make enough plays as the Eagles win a high-scoring game in Dallas. But other tough games the Cowboys have are games like the Patriots, with the Patriots' offensive line is very good and is going to be able to give the Patriots rushing attack a huge advantage, with the Cowboys run defense that normally struggles. And then Cam Newton is going to have time to throw and have his receivers get open with Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, and his tight ends, his passing options with Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, and Bill Belichick against Mike McCarthy is a huge coaching mismatch. And Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots, they're both of the most hated teams in the NFL, hated fan bases, for Cowboys being America's team and the Patriots winning so much in recent memory. Now they're less hated since Tom Brady left, but the Patriots and Cowboys are still the 2 most hated teams and fan bases in the NFL. And I have the New England Patriots coming away with the win. And then other tough games, their toughest game, one of their toughest, they have to play the 2 teams that faced off in the Super Bowl this year. The Buccaneers, obviously, in week 1, but then the Kansas City Chiefs in week 11. 10 weeks later, they have to face Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, are going to put up, they can put up 55 points. It's going to be a really high-scoring game for the Chiefs. It's a terrible matchup for Dallas. And Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu, that secondary can make some plays on this Cowboys offense, although the Cowboys can score a lot. But the Chiefs are going to score more. The Cowboys secondary is already not good enough. And then with Kansas City's high-powered offense and their improved offensive line, Mahomes and Reed are going to have a field day with the Cowboys. So the Chiefs should be one of the lock-in matchups. It's a terrible matchup for Dallas. That is by far their toughest game of the year. And then the Cardinals also are quite a tough game for the Cowboys, with Kyler Murray, Hopkins, and that offense is going to prove a tough matchup for the Cowboys defense, with Rondale Moore's speed also proving to be a mismatch, and all the options they have at wide receiver, and Edmonds and Connor can get going in that run game. Kingsbury and McCarthy are 2 head coaches that are on the hot seat a little bit if these teams don't get going soon. In this season, if these 2 teams, the Cardinals and the Cowboys, don't do good this coming year, McCarthy and Kingsbury can be on the hot seat. but the Cardinals are going to score a lot of points on the Cowboys, and with their defense, with J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, Malcolm Butler, Buda Baker, and all that talent the Cardinals have on defense, Marcus Golden, underrated, are going to get quite a bit of stops, and the Cardinals are going to run away with that. A tough matchup for the Dallas Cowboys. The Vikings are also a tough matchup with all the Vikings. Offensive firepower with Jefferson and Thielen and Cook, and Cousins is going to be able to play action with Cook, who's going to have a really good game. That game with the Cowboys' tough run defense, or with the Cowboys' terrible run defense, it's going to open up the play action and pass game a lot for the Vikings. So the Cowboys go 7-10, losing to the Buccaneers, Chargers, Eagles in the first 3 weeks, and then week 6. So the Cowboys are going to lose to the Buccaneers, Chargers, Eagles the first 3 weeks. Weeks 4 and 5, they get 2 straight against the Panthers and the Giants. Week 6, they lose to the Patriots to fall to 2 and 4. Week 7, they have their bye. Week 8, they're going to lose to the Vikings. Week 9, they're going to lose to the Broncos. Week 10, they're going to beat the Falcons. Week 11, they're going to lose to the Chiefs. Week 12, they're going to beat the Raiders. Week 13, they're going to beat the Saints. Week 14 and 15, Week 14, they're going to lose to the football team. Week 15, they're going to lose to the Giants. Week 16, they're going to beat the football team. Week 17, they're going to lose to the Cardinals. Week 18, they're going to beat the Eagles. To finish 7-10 is what I'm projecting will be. Let's look at the floor and get the ugly out of the way for the Cowboys fans first to see what their worst case scenario is. The Dallas Cowboys floor, their worst case scenario, in my opinion, is a 2-15 record, which is absolutely atrocious. This is if everything went against them. If Dak Prescott gets injured again, then they can also lose to the Saints and get swept by the Eagles. But the Dallas Cowboys, I have their floor going 2-15 because I had them beating the Falcons earlier. But if things go against them, if that goes against them, Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts are quite a bit of offensive firepower and could end up scoring a lot of points on that Cowboys defense, and they could get engaged in a duel that the Falcons win. And then the Panthers winning against the Cowboys in the worst case scenario with that young pass rush and that young defense with talent like Hassan Reddick, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, guys like that on the Panthers defense could do just enough, and the Panthers high-powered offense, Sam Darnold is a question mark, but he's reuniting with Robbie Anderson. He has Christian McCaffrey, and he also has DJ Moore. A lot of offense there that could really put up a lot of points on the Cowboys defense. And then worst case scenario, they get swept by the Giants instead of splitting with them with the Giants defense, and then their offense with all their talent on offense able to outscore the Cowboys. And then the Raiders beating the Cowboys. Now with the Raiders offensive talent they have, Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs and Waller and Ruggs, maybe Burns, that secondary. In their worst case scenario, they outduel the Cowboys offense in a high scoring game. So the Cowboys floor is 2-15, which I don't think they're going to go, but it's definitely a possibility. Now let's look at their ceiling, their best case scenario. So the Cowboys' best case scenario, their ceiling is 12-5, with their only losses coming against the Buccaneers, Patriots, Chiefs, football team, and Giants. They could sweep the Giants, except I think that defense is too good and the Cowboys defense is too bad that they can win one time against the Giants, but I don't see them sweeping them, although it's a possibility. in their absolute best case scenario, you could say the Cowboys sweep the Giants and go 13-4. But I'm saying their ceiling is 12-5, which would be tied with the football team for the East, but the football team getting the slight tiebreaker with the Cowboys would be making the playoffs with this record of 12-5. So I don't see how the Cowboys beat the Chiefs or the Buccaneers in their best case scenario, or the Patriots, and I still see them splitting with the football team, but they are able to beat teams like the Cardinals, like the Vikings in shootouts, like they're able to sweep the Eagles, and they're able to beat other teams like the Chargers in week 2 in a shootout, and they're able to their ceiling depends a lot on their team staying healthy, Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence stepping up, with Dak Prescott having an MVP type of year, and that offense being well-rounded with the offensive line playing well, and Pollard and Zeke running the football well, with Dak Prescott able to get some play-action games going with Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb down the field. This Cowboys offense has the potential to be one of the best in the league. A top 5 offense could be for sure. They have the potential to be a really good offense. It's just their defense holds them back. But their ceiling and a possibility is the Cowboys going 12-5 and making the playoffs. They're definitely a playoff caliber team, a team that is right on the brink of the playoff conversation, but in such a stacked division. The Cowboys, in my eyes, are going 7-10, although I was a little bit harsh on them. But that defense and their coaching staff and their injury concerns are what has me being hard on the Cowboys, saying they're going to go 7-10. But they can definitely reach their ceiling, and they can definitely make the playoffs. There's just a lot of teams like the Niners, Cardinals, Seahawks, from the NFC West. The Vikings even could be a threat. All these other teams could be making the playoffs. But Cowboys' ceiling is 12-5, but I see them going 7-10. Now moving on to our next team in the division, we have the New York Giants, who I also see going 7-10. The Giants are an interesting team to me, a team that could go boom or bust. But again, a lot of these teams have potential. It's just offensive line is so important. Like, I don't think any of you will really understand so much. But offensive line is just so important in the NFL. And the Giants are such a well-coached team. They're so well-coached. But Daniel Jones, I think he has a potential. He has a really good deep ball. He just turns the ball over way too much. And that's just my issue. He just fumbles it too much, and when the pass rush is on, it can just really disrupt the Giants. And they just have really good skill positions with Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, and these guys with Saquon Barkley. They just have so much potential. They have Darius Slayton, who's really underrated as well. But it's just like when your offensive line just can't hold up properly. Like, you saw Saquon versus the Steelers last year. That was bad. He couldn't do anything. The Giants couldn't do anything. Kenny Golladay really makes their passing game a lot easier, but it's just not going to be really good. And their defense, they have Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams up front. Blake Martinez played better than he did in Green Bay. He played better with the Giants. They have James Bradbury. They have Jabril Peppers and Logan Ryan at the safety spot. They have a lot of talent on the defensive end, and they were pretty good last year. But it's just like their offensive line, their quarterback, I just can't trust it enough. They do have some holes on the defensive side. The receivers are good. Evan Ingram, I don't know how he makes the Pro Bowl over Robert Tonyan, but the Giants are a team that really has a lot of potential. It's just when I can't trust your quarterback and your offensive line, it just makes it a lot harder. And they also lose Kevin Zeitler as well. So This is a tough one, but I have quite a bit. I have them dropping a lot of games due to opposing teams' pass rushes, such as the Broncos, who have a really good pass rush with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb probably staying healthy this year. The football team with their pass rush, you already know Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Those guys are going to be getting after it. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. Like, it's going to be really tough. That front seven is really good. I have them drop into the Saints. Cameron Jordan. Saints drafted Peyton Turner, defensive end out of Houston, who's a good power rusher, who they're hoping replaces Trey Hendrickson. I have them drop into the Rams with Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, of course, Leonard Floyd, so that pass rush is good. The Panthers, another underrated pass rush with Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns. The Chiefs, who have mainly because I think that the Chiefs' offense is going to outduel the Giants, but the Chiefs have Chris Jones and Frank Clark who can get after the quarterback. And then another team that has a really good pass rush, and that's a very bad matchup for the Giants, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Shaq Barrett, JPP, Vita Vea inside, and Dominican Sue. They can really get after the quarterback the way Levante David and Devin White can blitz. That's a very bad matchup. So that's another pass rush team that I have the Giants losing to. I have them losing to the Chargers. Melvin Ingram is seeking somewhere to go. He's linked to the Chiefs for a trade, but he might stay as a Charger. But Joey Bosa is a very good pass rusher, so that might give the Giants some problems, but mainly because of the Chargers' offense. And then the Eagles, of course, have Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, those guys. Their strength is their defensive line and pass rush. They got quite a bit of sacks last year, so I have them surprisingly beating the Bears, who have a good pass rush. But again, it's just the Bears' offense I don't really trust in that situation. I think they don't match up well. And then I have them splitting with the football team because it's a divisional matchup. So the offensive line, if they were better and they could protect, then maybe they do pull off they do beat teams like the Chargers, Eagles, maybe sweep the football team. They hold off the Saints. They beat teams like the Broncos. But it's just like quarterback, offensive line, I can't trust them enough. And it's just like they have a tough schedule. In an easier division, but the division is going to be better than it is last year. So the Giants, I'm 7-10. Now let's look at their floor, their worst case scenario, and then after that we'll look at their ceiling. So the New York Giants floor is 3-14 in my opinion. This is if every single thing goes wrong. So they lose to the teams they lose to, and then their only wins come against the Falcons, the Cowboys, and the Eagles in this worst case scenario. I have them losing to the Bears, again, like Khalil Mack, and Justin Fields might be starting in week 17. Maybe they pose a bad matchup and kind of somehow steal that game. Daniel Jones throws the ball over way too much. And then they lose to the Raiders now. They could lose in a shootout. They lose to the Raiders. They lose in a shootout. The Raiders' offensive firepower with Waller, Jacobs, Carr, Ruggs, those guys, probably they could outduel the Giants, but in this worst case scenario, they do. They lose to the Dolphins, who have a really good defense in this worst case scenario with Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and Brian Flores, who is a really good head coach, and Tua, Jalen Waddle, maybe that poses more speed. Will Fuller, probably it poses a threat for the Giants defense. So in this worst case scenario, I have them going 3-14. I don't think they'll do worse than this. I don't think they'll be swept by the Eagles. I don't think they'll be swept by the Cowboys. And I don't think they're going to lose to the Falcons. So let's look at their ceiling, their best case scenario, and then we'll move on to our final team, which is the Philadelphia. So the Giants, I believe, have a ceiling of 12-5, with their only losses coming to the football team, the Rams, two elite defenses and two offenses that have the potential to be pretty explosive. The Chiefs, a very explosive offense and a very good team. The Buccaneers, the most complete team in football, and the Washington football team again. So that's their ceiling, 12-5. Actually, 13-4 ceiling, because I believe they can split with the Washington football team. So I have the Giants with the ceiling of 13-4, only losing to the Rams, the Chiefs, who have two explosive offenses, and the Rams, of course, have that great defense. I have them losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have the most well-rounded team in football. And then I still have them splitting with the football team because that defense is so good. I know they're going to take at least one. But 13-4 is a very good record. Like I said, this Giants team has so much potential. It's just like their offensive line and Daniel Jones holds back. But in this scenario, Daniel Jones improves and takes another leap and kind of gets a Josh Allen-esque type of leap, which could very well happen. His decision-making improves, his turnovers decrease, his touchdowns increase, and his efficiency increases in this scenario of the Giants' best-case scenario. But I still think that it's the football team's division. But if the Giants reach their potential and their ceiling, they could overtake the football team and actually win the division. But the Giants, I think they're going to be similar to the Cowboys, battling for that second spot. And I think that the Cowboys and the Giants will barely miss the playoffs. I just see that happening like that. So Giants, they have potential. It's just Daniel Jones, their quarterback, and their offensive line holds them back. But they have a lot of talent, great skill position players, good defense. It's just like, man, you just never know. But I think the Giants could surprise a lot of people, but I think they're kind of in that mediocre range, fighting for a winning record. They just have a tough schedule, facing teams like the Chiefs, the Bucks, the football team, which I think is going to improve, Rams. These are all tough games and matchups, Dolphins, Chargers. So that's where I have them at right now, with a floor of 3 to 4 wins. With our final team being the Philadelphia Eagles, I have them having a really rough season, a really rough end to the season. I have them finishing 4-13, which is pretty bad. The Eagles, they're just a really question mark team this year. It's just, I think they should tank. I think they should be going for a rebuild. I just think Nick Sirianni now is their head coach. I just don't think it's a fit with Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts has some weapons around him to have a successful offense with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders. They still have a decent O-line, but that defense is just going to be pretty bad, similar to the Cowboys. Although I think that defense is going to be better. It's just that secondary and the linebackers are going to be pretty bad. So it's just like, I don't think Jalen Hurts can carry this Eagles team. They were pretty bad last year around this. So I think the Eagles are going to struggle. They're going to have a really bad end to the year. It's just like, I think they're going to beat the Falcons week 1, lose to their Niners, then week 3 beat the Cowboys, then week 4 lose to the Chiefs. So they're like a 2-2 early, but then they lose 2 straight to the Panthers and the Bucks to fall to 2-4. Then they win 2 straight against the Raiders and the Lions to get 4-4. But then after that, they're going to go on a 9-game losing streak with just a bunch of tough matchups like the Chargers with Justin Herbert. That offense can just score a ton of points on the Eagles. And then the Broncos with their ferocious defense and all that weaponry on offense, and 2 iffy quarterbacks. So that the Eagles don't have much of a quarterback advantage there. So I feel like the Broncos are going to win that. The Saints, even with Winston, the Eagles beat them last year in an upset kind of weird game when there wasn't really much tape on Jalen Hurts, but now there's more tape on Jalen Hurts, and now that's going to hurt the Eagles. So the Saints with Sean Payton, I think they're going to get out-coached, and the Saints still have a good team with a great offensive line, and I think Sean Payton can help Jameis Winston improve and cut down on his turnovers, but I think the Saints are still a flawed team, but I think they beat the Eagles in this matchup. Then the Eagles versus the Giants. I have the Giants sweeping them this year because of the Giants offense with all that firepower and saying the Eagles do have a little edge though, and they could split with the Giants here in the season to go 5-12 and make the Giants go 6-11. Not that it makes much of a difference, but the Eagles pass rush versus the Giants offensive line, that front seven is a bit of a matchup, so I could see them both splitting, but I'm saying they're going to get swept here. And then the Jets versus the Eagles. I have the Jets winning in week 13. Zach Wilson, that offense with Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, Mims, and all those guys. I think Zach Wilson kind of has a nice rookie game where he throws for a lot of yards and touchdowns, in that Jets secondary. It's going to be fun, but I think I'm taking Zach Wilson over Jalen Hurts, and then the football team, I'm seeing them sweeping the Eagles with that defense, and then Fitzpatrick in that offense, I think it's going to have an easy time against that secondary, and then the Giants, I have them sweeping the Eagles, and then the Cowboys, I have them splitting with the Eagles, winning in week 18. With Dak Prescott throwing for a lot of yards and touchdowns against that Eagles defense. So it's not looking good at all for the Eagles. Let's just see their floor real quick. So the floor I see the Eagles doing at the absolute worst, which is hard to see, is 1-16 with their only win coming against the Detroit Lions. I had the Falcons beating them, the Cowboys sweeping them, plus the Raiders also beating them. So every other matchup that we had, plus the Falcons, Raiders beating them, and them getting swept by the Cowboys with their only win coming against the Lions is their worst case scenario. I don't think the Eagles are going to do this bad and get only one win. I think they'll have 4 to 5, maybe 6 at a realistic pace, but 1-16 is their worst case scenario. That's if some injuries occur. That's if that secondary is just super bad, which it can be, but that's if injuries occur and their matchup stuff just doesn't go their way, which the Eagles are a very injury prone team, so they have injuries a lot of the time. So let's see their ceiling and their best case scenario. The Eagles at their absolute best, I see them going 11-6, getting wins over the Falcons in week 1, the Cowboys in week 3, Panthers in week 5, the Raiders in week 7, Lions in week 8, Chargers in week 9, Broncos in week 10, Saints in week 11, Jets in week 13, Giants in week 16, football team in week 17. This is where I see the Eagles at their absolute peak, best case scenario. You could also say 12-5 if they sweep the Cowboys, but I think this is an unlikely scenario with their losses coming to the 49ers, Chiefs, Bucks, football team, and Giants plus the Cowboys one time. Or you could say the Eagles sweep the Cowboys in their best case scenario. Or you could say the Eagles sweep the Cowboys in their best case scenario and they go 12-5. But the Eagles, if they hit their best case scenario, that means Devontae Smith kind of has a Justin Jefferson type of year. Darius Slay rebounds. That pass rush gets better. A lot of their matchups go their way. That offensive line plays well. Hurts improves quite a bit in Sirianni's system, and all that goes right. So, but I'm going to change the Eagles back to their original record, and we'll have finished our prediction video and seeing what teams made the playoffs and getting ready for our playoff prediction video that's going to come soon, where I predict the winner is Super Bowl 56, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So let me change the Eagles back and let's go. That's going to be it for these prediction videos. So my final standings are looking like the Buccaneers, #1 seed in the NFC at 15-2 with the most complete roster, although they could go 17-0 very easily. I just picked a couple of upsets, a couple of matchups that could go wrong. Second is going to be the Rams at 14-3. Third is going to be the Packers with an Aaron Rodgers. Now, if Aaron Rodgers leaves and Jordan Love starts, that's going to hurt the Packers a lot. So at 3 seed, I have the Packers at 13-4. But if Aaron Rodgers is gone and it's Jordan Love instead, that's going to hurt the Packers quite a bit. But the Packers still have one of the best rosters in football with so many stars and a lot of solid players and a lot of guys with a lot of potential. So I see the Packers at the 3 seed. 4 seed, I have the football team at 12-5, winning the division over the Giants and the Cowboys. So the football team at the 4th, so that means the Buccaneers are going to have the first round bye. The Rams are going to host a playoff game. The Packers are going to host a playoff game. And so is the Washington football team on wildcard weekend. But the 3 wildcard teams are going to be the 49ers, Cardinals, and Seahawks all from the NFC West, because the Seahawks always make the playoffs every year, so they just barely sneak in, although they have a lot of flaws and a rough schedule and a rough division. But they still barely have a winning year, and they still barely make the 7th seed. 49ers make it 13-4, Cardinals make it at 11-6, and then the Seahawks make it at 9-8. So that means the Buccaneers would be on bye for wildcard weekend, and it would be a rematch between the Rams and the Seahawks. It would be the Packers versus the Cardinals, and then it would be the football team versus the 49ers in wildcard weekends. That would be really interesting. So those are the games we're going to have to predict in our next video, and then work our way up to the Super Bowl. So that's going to be it. The AFC standings, I have the Browns at the 1 seed, the Chiefs at the 2, Bills 3 seed, Titans 4, and then wild card teams, I have the Patriots at 5, Chargers at 6, and the Ravens at 7. So our predictions are complete. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Was I too harsh? I probably didn't pick enough upsets. That's why the top teams are so have great records, and the bottom teams, there's quite a bit of bad teams, but we'll see. I'll make a Raiders video. I feel bad about that. I whiffed on the record, but like and subscribe. Road to 400. Thank you all so much. We'll predict the playoffs coming soon. That's it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. What do you think of the NFC East? And we'll see you in the next. Also, turn on post notifications too, so you don't miss it up.